V12 engines, the pinnacle of power, prestige, and smooth performance. Or so you'd think. While some V12-powered cars became legends of speed and luxury, others were outright disasters. Plagued by terrible reliability, absurd maintenance costs, and engineering nightmares, these forgotten machines prove that more cylinders don't always mean more greatness. From obscure luxury flops to ambitious failures, these 12 old V12 cars were so bad, most people have erased them from memory. But not today, man. Let's dive into the forgotten world of the worst V12 cars ever built.
Yeah, it's slick.
I saw a voiceover script, 1932, Lincoln KB V12, the rise and fall of a luxury titan. Picture this, the early 1930s, a time of opulence and an innovation in the automotive world. The race to build the most luxurious, most powerful car was in full swing. Brands like Cadillac, Packard, and Lincoln were locked in a battle for supremacy, each trying to outdo the other with bigger engines, sleeker designs, and more extravagant features. And then, there was the 1932 Lincoln KB V12, a car that promised to redefine luxury, but instead became a cautionary tale of ambition gone awry. At its core, the Lincoln KB was a masterpiece of engineering, or so it seemed. Under its long, elegant hood sat a massive 7.3-liter V12 engine capable of producing 150 horsepower. On paper, it was a marvel, a symbol of American ingenuity and power. But here's the twist. By the time the Lincoln KB hit the market, it was already a relic of the past. Cadillac had already unveiled its V16 engine, a technological leap that left Lincoln's V12 in the dust. The KB's engine, while impressive in size, was outdated, inefficient, and underpowered compared to its rivals. But the problems didn't stop there. The Lincoln KB was a heavyweight in every sense of the word. Its massive frame and luxurious interior made it one of the heaviest cars of its time. And with that weight came sluggish acceleration. Imagine pressing the gas pedal only to feel the car lumber forward as if it were dragging an anchor. It wasn't just slow, it was painfully slow, especially for a car that was supposed to exude power and prestige. And then there was the fuel consumption. The Lincoln KB's V12 engine was a gas guzzler of epic proportions. In an era when efficiency was becoming increasingly important, the KB was a throwback to a time when no one cared about miles per gallon. But this wasn't the 1920s anymore. The Great Depression had gripped the nation, and every drop of fuel mattered. Owning a Lincoln KB wasn't just a luxury, it was a financial burden. The car's poor fuel efficiency made it a symbol of excess in a world that could no longer afford it. And that brings us to the final nail in the coffin, the Great Depression. The economic collapse of the 1930s changed everything. Overnight, the market for luxury cars evaporated. The wealthy who once flaunted their status with cars like the Lincoln KB were now tightening their belts. The KB, with its high price tag and impractical design, became a symbol of a bygone era. Sales plummeted, and Lincoln was forced to discontinue the model just a few years after its debut. But why does the Lincoln KB still fascinate us today? Perhaps it's because it represents the duality of ambition and failure. It was a car that aimed for the stars but fell short, a reminder that even the grandest dreams can be undone by poor timing, flawed design, and forces beyond our control. The Lincoln KB V12 wasn't just a car, it was a story of what could have been and what happens when ambition meets reality. The Lincoln KB was more than just a machine, it was a statement of power, of luxury, of a company's desire to dominate the automotive world. But it was also a statement of hubris, of overreach, of a failure to adapt to a changing world. It was a car born in the wrong era, a relic of the roaring 20s trying to survive in the bleak 30s. And yet, there's something undeniably captivating about the Lincoln KB. Maybe it's the sheer audacity of its design, the boldness of its V12 engine, or the elegance of its lines. Or maybe it's the tragedy of its story, the way it rose so high only to fall so hard. The Lincoln KB is a reminder that even the most beautiful dreams can turn into nightmares, that even the most powerful machines can be brought to their knees by forces beyond their control. So, the next time you see a classic car, remember the Lincoln KB. It's not just a relic of the past. It's a monument to the risks of chasing greatness without listening to the world around you. A majestic failure, frozen in time, whispering lessons we still need to hear. The Lincoln KB V12, a car that dared to dream, but ultimately a dream that couldn't survive the harsh light of reality. It's a story of ambition, of innovation, of failure, and of resilience. A story that reminds us that even in the face of defeat, there's beauty to be found. The Lincoln KB may have been a failure, but it was a glorious one. A testament to the human spirit's unending quest to create, to innovate, and to dream. And in that, perhaps, lies its true legacy. Packard, once considered America's premier luxury car manufacturer, was known for its engineering prowess and refined automobiles. In the 1920s and 1930s, Packard's 12-cylinder engines were among the finest in the world, rivaling the best from Cadillac, Lincoln, and even European marques like Rolls-Royce. However, as the 1940s progressed, the automotive industry evolved rapidly, and Packard found itself increasingly out of step with modern engineering trends. Nowhere was this more apparent than in its 7.0L 424 CUN V12, which powered the 1941 to 1948 custom Super 81880. Originally introduced in 1915, Packard's 12-cylinder engines had been cutting-edge in their day, offering smooth, refined power in an era when most competitors relied on straight 6 or straight 8 designs. The 12-cylinder layout provided excellent balance and effortless torque delivery, which suited the heavy, stately Packard luxury cars of the pre-war era. However, by the time World War II arrived, the V12 was no longer an innovative or desirable engine. While Packard continued to market it as a symbol of exclusivity and prestige, the reality was that the company had failed to modernize its flagship power plant. The biggest flaw of Packard's V12 was its outdated flathead, L-head design. In a flathead engine, the valves are located beside the cylinders rather than above them, which limits airflow and combustion efficiency. By the 1940s, most high-performance automakers were transitioning to overhead valve, OHV engines, which allowed for better breathing, higher compression ratios, and more power. Cadillac, for example, introduced its revolutionary 346 cubic inch OHV V8 in 1930s, which was lighter, more efficient, and produced competitive horsepowers without the drawbacks of a 12-cylinder layout. Chrysler, too, had embraced advanced straight-8 engines that offered similar power output while being far easier to maintain. In contrast, Packard stubbornly held onto its antiquated V12, believing that prestige alone would be enough to sustain demand. This proved to be a costly miscalculation. The flathead design of the Packard V12 resulted in poor fuel combustion, which in turn led to excessive heat buildup and limited power output. Despite its massive displacement, the engine produced only 160 horsepower, less than some of the more advanced straight-8 and V8 engines of the same era. The poor efficiency of the design also meant that fuel economy was abysmal, a significant drawback in the years following World War II, when gasoline rationing had made buyers more conscious of fuel consumption. Another major weakness of the Packard V12 was its weight. The sheer size of the engine made it incredibly heavy, which negatively affected the overall performance and handling of the custom Super 8180. Acceleration was sluggish, and the added weight put extra strain on the car's suspension, brakes, and drivetrain components. While the Packard V12 delivered a smooth, quiet ride, perfect for chauffeurs and formal limousine service, it was far from an exciting or engaging engine to drive. Reliability was another issue. The V12's complex lubrication system was prone to oil circulation problems, which led to excessive wear on the camshaft and valve lifters. Owners frequently complained about premature engine wear, excessive oil consumption, and overheating issues. In an era when reliability and ease of maintenance were becoming increasingly important to luxury car buyers, the Packard V12's mechanical shortcomings were impossible to ignore. In addition to its mechanical flaws, the V12 suffered from declining consumer interest. By the 1940s, the prestige of 12-cylinder engines had begun to wane. In the 1930s, automakers like Cadillac and Marmon had marketed 16-cylinder engines as the pinnacle of automotive luxury. but the Great Depression had nearly wiped out demand for such extravagant power plants. By the time the economy recovered in the late 1940s, the priorities of car buyers had shifted. Customers wanted cars that were powerful, but also practical, efficient, and easy to maintain. The bulky, temperamental Packard V12 simply didn't fit into this new automotive landscape. After World War II, Packard quickly realized that its V12 had no future. The company decided to discontinue the engine entirely, replacing it with its new generation of straight-eight engines, which were more in line with modern engineering trends. The Packard Custom Super 8180 remained in production for a few more years, but it was clear that the era of the 12-cylinder Packard was over. Ultimately, the demise of the Packard V12 was a reflection of the company's failure to adapt to changing times. While Packard had been an industry leader in the early 20th century, its reluctance to embrace modern engine designs left it vulnerable to competition from Cadillac, Lincoln, and even Chrysler. Hispano-Suiza was one of the most prestigious luxury automakers of the early 20th century, known for crafting exquisite, high-performance automobiles that blended cutting-edge engineering with impeccable craftsmanship. The company's reputation for innovation was well-earned, particularly with models like the H6, which introduced advanced aircraft-inspired technology to the world of road cars. However, not all of Hispano-Suiza's creations were practical or even well-executed. The 1926 H6C V12, despite its promise of unparalleled power and sophistication, ultimately proved to be one of the most impractical and overly complex engines ever fitted to a luxury automobile. The heart of the H6C V12 was its massive 9.4-liter, 575 cubic inch, 12-cylinder engine, which was a technological marvel in its day. Drawing heavily from Hispano-Suiza's experience in aircraft engine design, this V12 featured a lightweight aluminum block, overhead camshafts, and hemispherical combustion chambers, features that were decades ahead of their time. Producing around 200 horsepower, it was one of the most powerful road car engines of the 1920s, capable of propelling the H6C to speeds unheard of in the era of heavy, slow luxury sedans. But while the engine's specifications were impressive on paper, they were completely impractical for real-world use. The aviation-derived design made the V12 far too complex for regular maintenance, requiring constant adjustments and expert mechanical knowledge. In an era when most luxury cars were powered by simple, robust straight-six or straight-eight engines, the Hispano-Suiza's intricate engineering was a nightmare for owners who lacked access to factory-trained mechanics. Routine maintenance that would have been straightforward on a contemporary Rolls-Royce or Cadillac became an expensive ordeal with the H6C. Compounding the issue was the engine's finicky and temperamental nature. The V12 was prone to overheating due to its high compression and aviation-inspired cooling system, which was never fully adapted for road use. Poor fuel quality of the time also caused constant tuning issues, as the sophisticated carburation system struggled to operate reliably outside of controlled conditions. The result was an engine that, while theoretically powerful, spent more time in the shop than on the road. Even when the engine was running properly, the H6C was notorious for its high operating costs. The sophisticated valvetrain and lubrication system required frequent servicing, and spare parts were nearly impossible to find outside of Hispano-Suiza's exclusive service network. Unlike Rolls-Royce, which prided itself on creating reliable, long-lasting luxury cars, Hispano-Suiza built the H6C as if it were an exotic racing machine. Fine for the racetrack, but a disaster for the average aristocrat who simply wanted a reliable touring car. The excessive weight of the V12 also presented a major problem. While aluminum construction helped reduce mass, the sheer size and complexity of the engine meant it was still significantly heavier than the inline-six or V8 engines found in competing luxury cars. This made the H6C difficult to handle, particularly in urban settings where its long wheelbase and heavy front end resulted in sluggish steering and poor maneuverability. As a result of these numerous drawbacks, many H6C V12s suffered an unfortunate fate. Wealthy owners, frustrated with the car's endless mechanical troubles, often swapped out the original engine for more conventional straight-eight power plants from brands like Packard or Cadillac. Others simply abandoned or scrapped their H6Cs altogether, unable to justify the exorbitant costs of maintaining such a temperamental machine. Today, surviving examples of the original V12-powered H6C are exceedingly rare, as most of these cars have either been extensively modified or lost to history. In the end, the 1926 Hispano-Suiza H6C V12 serves as an example of engineering ambition taken too far. While its cutting-edge design and aviation-inspired features were impressive for their time, they proved to be completely impractical in a road-going luxury car. The H6C remains an intriguing piece of automotive history, but its reputation as an overcomplicated and unreliable machine ensures that it will always be remembered as a cautionary tale of what happens when technical innovation outpaces real-world usability. The Ferrari 166 Inter, produced from 1948 to 1950, holds a special place in Ferrari's history as one of the brand's first forays into road-going luxury cars. It was a model that signified the early days of Ferrari's transition from a racing-focused company to one that would eventually revolutionize the high-performance sports car market. However, despite its historical significance and iconic brand name, the 166 Inter's performance and engineering left much to be desired, particularly for those accustomed to the more robust powerhouses that would come later from Ferrari. At the heart of the 166 Inter was a 2.0-liter V12 engine, a revolutionary concept at the time, as Ferrari was known for creating race engines with massive displacements, but for a luxury road car, it was a notable departure from the norm. While the V12 was technically advanced for its era, it produced only 110 horsepower, which by the standards of the late 1940s was underwhelming. Many cars in the same era, especially those from competitors, featured four-cylinder engines that could deliver more power, and Ferrari's own later V12 designs would come to define the brand's legacy. One of the core issues with the Ferrari 166 Inter's engine was its fragility. The small 2.0-liter V12 had a history of mechanical problems, which, in hindsight, seems surprising given Ferrari's reputation for building durable and powerful engines in the years that followed. Overheating was a common issue, and the engine's oil consumption was notably high, which caused owners to frequently find themselves dealing with mechanical headaches. Cooling problems were prevalent, leading to frequent failures and constant maintenance needs. A far cry from the reliable, high-performance engines Ferrari became known for. Additionally, the engine was underpowered for its chassis. While the 166 Inter was undoubtedly a beautiful car, with its elegant lines and sophisticated design, the lack of power under the hood made it feel sluggish on the road. The car's top speed, although respectable at around 100 mph, did not live up to the sports car performance that Ferrari would later perfect. The car's acceleration and overall driving dynamics were also compromised by the weak engine, making it a less than thrilling driving experience, especially compared to the more powerful vehicles from competing luxury brands. One of the major drawbacks of the Ferrari 166 Inter was the challenge of maintaining it. The V12, despite its advanced engineering, required specialized care. Finding parts or experienced mechanics capable of working on such an exotic engine was not always easy. For owners, this meant expensive repairs and constant upkeep to ensure the engine ran smoothly. Even small issues could become costly due to the limited number of professionals capable of handling Ferrari's early road cars, and the parts themselves were often expensive and hard to come by. In an era where reliability was just as important as performance, the 166 Inter fell short, offering more frustration than joy to many of its owners. The 166 Inter, though an important step in Ferrari's evolution, represented a time when the company was still figuring out the balance between luxury and performance in its road cars. While Ferrari would go on to build engines that became the benchmark for performance and precision, the 166 Inter was stuck with an engine that was underpowered and prone to failure. Ferrari quickly realized that more power was necessary, and they moved on from the 166 Inter relatively quickly, ushering in larger and more refined V12 engines, such as the ones found in the 250 series. These later models provided the performance Ferrari would become famous for: raw power, reliability, and unmatched driving experiences. While the 166 Inter does not hold the same legendary status as Ferrari's later models, it is an important part of the brand's early history. It stands as a reminder of the early experimental days of Ferrari, a company that was still learning what it would take to become the symbol of performance and luxury it is today. The 166 Inter's place in Ferrari's lineage is more about its role as a stepping stone than as a truly successful model. As Ferrari perfected its craft, the 166 Inter faded into the background, a forgotten relic overshadowed by the much more successful cars that would follow. Today, the Ferrari 166 Inter is primarily a collector's item for those who appreciate the history of Ferrari, but it is not without its flaws. Those who seek it out are often enthusiasts or historians rather than performance drivers. While it undoubtedly represents a key moment in Ferrari's development, it also shows the growing pains of a brand that would eventually go on to define the supercar industry. The 166 Inter's small, underpowered V12 is a far cry from the monumental engines Ferrari would later build. The 1967 Jaguar XJ13 V12 prototype is a poignant example of automotive ambition, beauty, and unfulfilled potential. This car, with its striking design and cutting-edge engineering, represents a lost opportunity that could have shaped the future of racing. With only one prototype built, its story is a mixture of tragedy and triumph, embodying a dream that never fully materialized on the track. Jaguar's XJ13 was conceived with the sole purpose of dominating at Le Mans. At the time, Jaguar was trying to reclaim its position as a major player in the racing world. The XJ13's heart was a Maper 5.0L V12 engine, a masterpiece that produced a robust 502 horsepower, enough to make it a formidable contender in the world of motorsport. The engine was designed to give the car incredible acceleration and top speed, characteristics vital for success in endurance racing. The car's design was revolutionary for its time. It featured a mid-engine layout, placing the V12 behind the driver, which was a rare configuration for road-going vehicles but highly advantageous in racing. The car's aerodynamic body was sculpted to maximize speed and reduce drag, giving it a look that was futuristic yet timeless. It was sleek, aggressive, and unmistakably Jaguar in its elegant proportions and sharp lines. The car was a perfect balance between cutting-edge technology and the luxury and craftsmanship Jaguar had become known for. Yet, despite its incredible design and engineering, the XJ13 was never able to fulfill its racing potential. The primary obstacle came in the form of an unfortunate crash during testing. The single prototype, which had already been a marvel to behold, was severely damaged in a high-speed test run. The impact and resulting damage took the car off the track for repairs, and the plans to enter it into Le Mans were officially shelved. As Jaguar's financial situation grew tighter and racing priorities shifted, the project was abandoned. The XJ13 was relegated to the back of Jaguar's history, its potential locked away in a single, unrepaired prototype. The company's focus was diverted to more practical production models, and the dream of a Jaguar victory at Le Mans with the XJ13 at the wheel faded away. The car's only remaining prototype was quietly hidden away, effectively lost to the world of motorsport. It wasn't until decades later, in the 1990s, that the XJ13 was rediscovered and painstakingly rebuilt. But by then, the original vision for the car had long since disappeared. What was once seen as the future of Jaguar's racing legacy had become a relic, a prototype of what might have been. In its restored form, the XJ13 is a haunting reminder of the fine line between success and failure in the world of high-performance automobiles. Its rebuilt V12 engine, now a functioning relic of engineering excellence, does not fully compensate for the years it lost to the crash and abandonment. Yet, despite being restored, the XJ13 will always be defined by what it never became, a racing legend. Though it did not race or make it to production, the Jaguar XJ13 has become an iconic symbol for enthusiasts and collectors. It is a cherished artifact that continues to stir the imagination of those who dream of what could have been. Its design remains a benchmark of elegance and speed, with its low, wide stance and curvaceous bodywork creating an enduring allure. The story of the XJ13 represents the lost possibilities of the golden age of racing, where innovation and ambition collided with bad luck and the harsh realities of business. The XJ13 was, without a doubt, ahead of its time. It was an extraordinary piece of machinery, a car that combined exceptional performance with exquisite design. It was a car that could have revolutionized the racing world. But it was also a car that was never given the chance to prove itself. Instead, it became a symbol of unfulfilled potential, a reminder of how even the greatest achievements can be dashed by circumstance. In the end, the Jaguar XJ13 V12 prototype was both a brilliant creation and a tragic failure. It stood as an example of what could have been, a car that would have defined Jaguar's racing history if only it had been allowed to race. Its legacy, while not one of competition victories, endures in its iconic form and the reverence it has earned in the automotive world. The XJ13 remains one of the most beautiful and enigmatic what-ifs in car history, a tale of ambition, vision, and the fleeting nature of automotive greatness. The Lagonda in the 1970 Monteverdi 375L V12 was the product of an ambitious attempt of the Swiss car manufacturer, Monteverdi, to break into the ultra-competitive world of high-performance supercars. At the time, Europe was home to some of the most legendary names in the automotive industry, such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Maserati. These manufacturers were defining what it meant to build a true supercar, with a focus on performance, handling, and design. Monteverdi, a company better known for its luxury sedans and sports cars, hoped to join these elite ranks by introducing the 375L, a car that would rival the finest from Italy and beyond. However, while the 375L was a beautiful and ambitious machine, its execution fell short of the mark in nearly every important aspect. At the heart of the Monteverdi 375L was a 7.2L Chrysler V12 engine delivering an impressive 375 horsepower. The V12 was chosen for its powerful output, which, in theory, should have propelled the car to the performance levels expected of a supercar. The Chrysler engine, though it had potential, was bulky and not ideally suited for the lightweight sports car chassis. As a result, the engine's considerable weight drastically affected the car's handling and overall dynamics. In a market where performance and agility were key selling points, this mismatch would prove to be one of the car's biggest flaws. The Chrysler V12 was a heavy engine by nature, and when paired with the Monteverdi 375L's already substantial weight, it created an imbalanced driving experience. Despite its enormous power, the car struggled with handling and cornering. In comparison to its Italian counterparts, the 375L lacked the quick reflexes and nimbleness that were essential in a supercar. The weight distribution was skewed, and the car's steering felt sluggish and unresponsive in tight corners, making it difficult for drivers to have the control and precision that they craved when pushing the car to its limits. The 375L was never able to live up to the expectations of supercar enthusiasts who were looking for a vehicle that could handle both the straightaways and the winding curves with grace and finesse. On the open road, the Monteverdi 375L had its moments, but the experience was always marred by the engine's sluggish performance. At higher RPMs, the car's large displacement V12 could not provide the immediate throttle response that made its competitors so exhilarating to drive. Unlike the lightning-fast Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the time, the 375L lacked the high-revving, thrilling acceleration that supercar fans desired. The engine's performance was not only underwhelming, but also inconsistent. In an era where the best supercars were quick off the line and maintained solid acceleration through every gear, the 375L was outclassed. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Monteverdi 375L was its poor reliability. The build quality, despite its opulent appearance, was far from the standard expected of a luxury sports car. Monteverdi's craftsmanship was more suited to luxury sedans, not high-performance vehicles that demanded precise engineering and attention to detail. Over time, many owners of the 375L faced mechanical issues, often with the engine and transmission, which proved to be difficult and expensive to repair. While Monteverdi used high-end materials for the exterior, the interior was often a mismatch of luxurious but fragile components. As is the case with many vehicles that attempt to enter the supercar realm without the necessary pedigree, The Bousson 375's build quality failed to meet the high expectations of the market. The Monteverdi 375's exterior design, however, was one of the few elements that garnered widespread praise. With its striking lines and angular body, it exuded an air of sophistication and exclusivity. The car's wide stance, sculpted fenders, and low, aggressive profile made it look like a true exotic sports car. Unfortunately, its looks could not make up for its fundamental performance flaws. Many potential buyers were initially drawn to the car because of its exotic design, but they quickly realized that the performance was lackluster compared to other vehicles in its price range. Another issue was the unfortunate pricing. The Monteverdi 375L was not only expensive to purchase but also to maintain. As a relatively low-volume production car, parts were hard to come by, and specialized mechanics were required to keep the car running smoothly. For a supercar, this is a major deterrent, as most buyers expect a vehicle that can be serviced easily, and that does not require constant attention. For many, the i375L became a financial burden rather than an enjoyable asset. Ultimately, the Monteverdi 375L V12 was a failed experiment, a vehicle that was ambitious in theory but executed poorly in practice. Its Chrysler V12 engine, though powerful on paper, the 1973 BMW 3.0 Si V12 prototype is often regarded as one of BMW's ambitious failures in its engineering history, a testament to the challenges that can arise when pushing innovation too far ahead of its time. This prototype marked BMW's first foray into creating a V12-powered sedan, aiming to combine both luxury and performance in one refined package. It was equipped with a 5.0L V12 engine that produced 300 horsepower, a configuration that, on paper, seemed promising, potentially offering an exciting blend of smooth power delivery and superior luxury. Unfortunately, the reality of the project diverged significantly from this vision, turning the prototype into a frustrating and ultimately discarded experiment. The core issue that plagued the BMW 3.0 Si V12 was its tendency to overheat under normal driving conditions. The vehicle was fitted with a powerful V12 engine, which, despite its promise, proved to be too much for the compact engine bay. BMW's engineering team struggled to manage the heat generated by such a large engine within the confined space, leading to persistent overheating problems. These cooling issues made the car unreliable, as the engine frequently ran at dangerously high temperatures. This flaw significantly compromised the vehicle's practicality, as it was ill-suited for long-distance driving or even regular use without risking potential damage to vital engine components. In addition to the overheating problems, the 3.0 Si V12 was also a fuel guzzler, an issue that became increasingly apparent in the early 1970s. As the world began to face rising fuel prices and heightened awareness about fuel consumption, the V12-powered sedan became an inefficient option. Despite its luxurious appeal, the 5.0L V12 engine was notorious for its poor fuel economy, a trade-off that didn't justify the vehicle's lack of refinement and performance. Compared to BMW's more efficient six-cylinder models, the 3.0 Si V12 was considered excessive, with its fuel-hungry engine offering little in return for its consumption. Given the economic pressures of the time, it became clear that the prototype would not be viable in a market that was becoming increasingly fuel-conscious. Further compounding the issues was the lack of refinement in the driving experience. BMW had built its reputation on smooth, performance-oriented sedans, but the 3.0 Si V12 failed to deliver the expected level of polish. The V12 engine, rather than being a seamless, refined powerhouse, had a roughness that detracted from the overall driving experience. The engine's mechanical noise and lack of smoothness created a jarring contrast to the luxury that the vehicle was meant to embody. It was clear that despite the promise of a powerful V12 engine, the refinement and comfort BMW was known for were nowhere to be found in this prototype. The design of the engine bay further hindered the practicality of the vehicle. The V12 engine was cramped into the relatively small sedan's bay, making it almost impossible for mechanics to access important engine components for regular maintenance. The lack of space and accessibility made repairs costly and time-consuming, leading to frustration among owners who would face long delays and expensive bills if the engine required attention. This also made the 3.0 Si V12 a poor choice for consumers who valued reliability and ease of maintenance. Despite these numerous flaws, BM eventually recognized the shortcomings of the 3.0 Si V12 and decided to scrap the prototype altogether. The company's vision for a V12-powered sedan did not become a reality until 1987, when the BMW 750iL finally debuted with a much more refined and practical V12 engine. By this point, the technology had significantly improved, and the 750iL became one of BMW's flagship luxury sedans, embodying the true essence of the brand's engineering prowess. In hindsight, the BMW 3.0 Si V12 prototype serves as a cautionary tale about the complexities of automotive innovation. While it is often remembered for its high ambition, the prototype also highlights the difficulties of advancing technology without first ensuring that the fundamentals are in place. BMW's swift decision to abandon the prototype in favor of more practical designs proved to be the right move, setting the stage for the success of future V12-powered models. The 3.0 Si V12 may not have lived up to expectations, but it remains an interesting footnote in the company's history, demonstrating both the risks and rewards of pushing the envelope in automotive design. The 1977 Panther DeVille V12 is an automotive anomaly, a car that, while trying to capture the grandeur and mystique of classic luxury vehicles, fell short on almost every practical level. Produced by Panther Westwinds, a British manufacturer known for its avant-garde designs and small production runs, the DeVille was conceived as a neoclassic luxury car that would blend the opulence of Rolls-Royce and Bentley heritage with a touch of modern flair. However, despite its ambitious design and impressive 5.3L Jaguar V12 engine, it quickly became known for being unreliable, slow, and flawed, characteristics far removed from the aura of the luxury cars it sought to emulate. Design and aesthetics. The Panther DeVille's design, at first glance, gives the impression of classic luxury. The massive flowing body, which took inspiration from the grandeur of Rolls-Royce and other high-end vehicles, was meant to exude an air of sophistication and exclusivity. The long, regal proportions, combined with intricate chrome detailing, led many to believe they were in the presence of a true luxury vehicle. Its sweeping lines and the ostentatious front grille, indicative of the grand automotive designs of the past. But it quickly became clear that underneath the surface, this was more of a design gimmick than an enduring piece of automotive craftsmanship. While the fiberglass body gave the car the lightweight characteristic, it also compromised the overall build quality. Unlike the heavy steel bodies of true luxury cars like Rolls-Royce or Bentley, the fiberglass construction of the DeVille contributed to a somewhat cheap feel. To many discerning buyers, the contrast between the car's luxury aspirations and its less-than-premium materials created a disjointed, awkward experience. The car appeared visually impressive, but its construction lacked the heft and solidity associated with high-end automobiles, making the luxury feel more superficial than substantial. Performance and driving experience. At the heart of the Panther DeVille was the Jaguar 5.3L V12 engine, a powerhouse capable of generating 265 horsepower. On paper, this should have been more than sufficient to provide the car with the necessary performance to match its size and luxury claims. However, when it came to actual performance, the DeVille struggled. The car's massive weight, coupled with its outdated drivetrain and relatively poor engine responsiveness, meant that the car could never really live up to the expected performance of a luxury sedan. Despite the engine's promising specifications, the Panther DeVille was sluggish, particularly when compared to the agile luxury vehicles from Europe and the United States that were in production at the time. What should have been a refined, powerful ride instead became a plodding experience with less than ideal acceleration, which was especially disappointing considering the car's luxurious price tag. The Jaguar V12, though regarded as a fine engine in other applications, lacked the necessary handling characteristics and power-to-weight ratio to make the DeVille a true contender in the world of luxury cars. The car simply couldn't leverage its engine to its full potential, resulting in a driving experience that felt disconnected, lacking the refinement one would expect from a vehicle of this price. Reliability and electrical gremlins. Perhaps the most significant drawback of the Panther DeVille was its unreliability. The car, which was marketed as a luxury masterpiece, was hampered by numerous mechanical and electrical issues. The Jaguar V12 engine itself was notorious for its finicky nature, but the DeVille's problems went well beyond just the engine. The car was riddled with electrical issues, a problem that plagued Jaguar vehicles of the era. Common complaints from owners included faulty gauges, issues with the ignition system, and chronic failures in electrical components, which made the DeVille not only an expensive car to own, but also a frustrating one. Electrical gremlins plagued everything from the car's dashboard to its lighting systems, leading many to deem it an unreliable investment. In terms of overall durability, the Panther DeVille simply didn't have the build quality or the mechanical robustness of its competitors. Jaguar's electrical issues, compounded by the somewhat fragile fiberglass bodywork, meant that the car required frequent, costly repairs, making it a car that demanded constant attention to keep it running. This, of course, detracted from the luxury experience, which is supposed to be about relaxation, comfort, and reliability. Things that the DeVille didn't offer in abundance. Market failure and limited appeal. While the Panther DeVille V12 was certainly an attention grabber, it ultimately failed to find much of a market. Priced at a level that placed it in competition with the world's best luxury cars, the DeVille's underperformance. The Lamborghini LM001 prototype, though ultimately a failure, holds a significant place in automotive history as an ambitious and experimental project that shaped the future of Lamborghini's venture into the luxury off-road vehicle market. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Lamborghini, traditionally known for its exotic sports cars, ventured into uncharted territory by attempting to create a military-grade off-road vehicle. The LM001 was the precursor to what would later become the more successful Lamborghini LM002, but its flaws and limitations made it a notable example of how even the most prestigious automotive manufacturers can misstep when attempting to branch into new categories. At the heart of the LM001's problems was its unconventional rear-engine design. Lamborghini's engineers initially thought that placing the engine at the rear would give the vehicle an advantage in traction, especially for off-road conditions, by providing better weight distribution to the rear wheels. However, the reality was far from the expectation. The rear engine configuration placed too much weight at the back of the vehicle, which raised its center of gravity, making it prone to tipping over and causing handling issues. This instability was particularly noticeable at higher speeds and during sharp cornering, where the vehicle would tend to lose its balance, causing a lack of control for the driver. It became clear that this design flaw rendered the LM001 more of a danger than a high-performance vehicle. Equipped with a 4.8L V12 engine producing 350 horsepower, the LM001 had the power needed to tackle challenging terrains, but it couldn't utilize that power effectively due to the flawed handling dynamics. The rear engine configuration essentially made the power inefficient, as the vehicle couldn't maintain the necessary balance to utilize the engine's full capabilities. When put to the test, the LM001 had the brute strength of an off-roading machine, but lacked the precision and agility needed to handle the rugged and often unpredictable terrain it was designed for. In essence, the LM001's engine might have been powerful, but its poor balance and handling made that power hard to control, especially when driving off-road. While Lamborghini's ambitions were high, the LM001's design was impractical for both military and civilian use. Military vehicles are expected to endure extreme conditions, including rough, uneven terrain, and often unpredictable weather. The LM001's rear engine design resulted in a vehicle that was both unstable and unreliable, failing to meet the performance standards needed for such demanding environments. Its awkward handling was further compounded by the absence of any robust suspension or chassis technology capable of keeping the vehicle stable under load, further diminishing its capabilities as a military vehicle. The LM001 was soon recognized as a failure in this context. One of the most significant issues with the LM001 was its handling at high speeds, which was further exacerbated by the rear engine layout. Vehicles designed for off-road use must be able to navigate various types of terrain without sacrificing stability, but the LM001 struggled to maintain any semblance of balance. Even though the V12 engine was capable of delivering substantial power, the vehicle's performance was hampered by the design flaw. Instead of utilizing that power in a controlled and efficient manner, it became a cumbersome task to drive at speed, particularly when navigating corners or rough patches of road. This not only made the LM001 a difficult vehicle to manage in an off-road setting, but also made it a dangerous one for the driver, highlighting the extent of the design flaw. In addition to the rear engine configuration, the LM001 also faced issues with its overall durability. Lamborghini had initially hoped that its high-performance, off-road capable prototype would appeal to military organizations or even wealthy civilian buyers looking for a luxury off-roading vehicle. But with poor handling, a lack of durability, and a design that was hard to repair or maintain, the LM001 failed to meet the standards required for either of these groups. Its heavy build, combined with its already unstable handling, made it a less than desirable choice in both the military and luxury vehicle markets. Seeing the limitations of the LM001, Lamborghini wisely made the decision to abandon the project and focus on a new approach. The company moved toward developing the LM002, which featured a more traditional front-engine layout. This new layout resolved many of the handling issues of the LM001, as it allowed for better balance, improved control, and a more stable driving experience. The LM02 would go on to become a major success, solidifying Lamborghini's place in the luxury SUV market with its rugged design, superior performance, and more manageable handling. The LM002 also proved that Lamborghini could deliver the luxury. The 1983 Aston Martin Lagonda V12 prototype, one of the more curious entries in the British automaker's history, represents an ambitious yet ultimately unsuccessful attempt to push the boundaries of luxury performance. In the early 1980s, Aston Martin was keen on making a statement in the luxury sedan market, particularly with their flagship model, the Lagonda. The vehicle's bold, angular design and advanced features, such as a futuristic digital dashboard, made it a striking presence on the roads. However, while the V8 version of the Lagonda succeeded in carving out a niche for itself, the V12 prototype failed to live up to its potential for a variety of reasons, ultimately being shelved in favor of the more reliable V8-powered production model. At the heart of the 1983 V12 prototype was a 5.3L V12 engine. On paper, this engine seemed to promise an elegant balance of power and refinement, but the reality was far different. With only 280 horsepower, it failed to deliver the robust performance expected of a high-end V12 engine. The engine's output was significantly lower than what other manufacturers were offering in similar high-performance luxury sedans, such as the Mercedes-Benz 600 or the BMW 7 Series. In a segment where power and performance were as important as luxury, this lackluster engine left the Lagonda V12 prototype feeling underwhelming. A V12, by design, is expected to provide an exhilarating, smooth experience at high speeds, but this engine did not achieve that, especially in a luxury sedan setting. The performance issues didn't stop with the engine's output. The V12 prototype was an extremely heavy vehicle, and its power-to-weight ratio suffered as a result. The complexity of the V12 engine added weight to an already substantial body, making it slower and more cumbersome than its V8 counterpart. This issue was exacerbated by the car's suspension and chassis, which were designed for a more compact engine. As a result, the V12 prototype lacked the agility and precision handling that buyers expected from an Aston Martin, a brand long known for its sports car performance. The handling became especially problematic in tight corners and high-speed maneuvers, where the prototype was prone to instability. In addition to performance shortcomings, the V12 prototype's high production costs were a significant hurdle. The decision to use a V12 engine, which was both expensive to manufacture and difficult to maintain, only added to the overall cost of the vehicle. The engineering and manufacturing complexity required to produce the V12 was substantial. And at a time when Aston Martin was already facing financial challenges, the V12 prototype became an unsustainable proposition. The car's production costs far exceeded its potential for profitability, especially given its underwhelming performance and the relative impracticality of such an engine in a luxury sedan. Fuel efficiency was another major drawback for the V12 prototype. The already heavy vehicle, coupled with the thirstier V12 engine, resulted in poor fuel economy. In an era when fuel efficiency was becoming an increasingly important factor in consumer purchasing decisions, particularly in luxury vehicles, this was a critical issue. Owners of luxury cars like the Aston Martin Lagonda expected their vehicles to offer both high performance and reasonable efficiency, but the V12 version failed to deliver on either front. This made it even less appealing to prospective buyers who were looking for something more refined, practical, and economical. The poor fuel efficiency combined with the complex, difficult-to-maintain V12 engine made the car both a financial and practical burden. Aston Martin found themselves in the position of having invested significant resources into a car that had little chance of competing in the market against its rivals. The car's high price tag, lack of reliable performance, and poor fuel economy meant that it was unlikely to appeal to the luxury buyers they were targeting. Realizing that the V12 prototype was a dead end, Aston Martin made the wise decision to scrap it and revert to the V8 engine that had been used in the original Lagonda. The V8-powered Lagonda, though not as powerful as the V12, offered a far more reasonable balance of performance, luxury, and cost-effectiveness. It was a car that could perform well in a variety of driving conditions without the expensive maintenance and engineering headaches that came with the V12. Despite its failings, the 1983 Aston Martin Lagonda V12 prototype has become a curious footnote in the company's history. While it never made it to production, the car's extravagant ambition and unique design showcase the willingness of Aston Martin to push boundaries, even if it was ultimately impractical. The vehicle now stands as an example of how even the most prestigious brands can fall short when ambition overtakes practical engineering. The 1987 Cizeta-Moroder V16T is one of the most eccentric and ambitious supercars ever created. Designed by former Lamborghini engineers, this hypercar pushed the boundaries of what was technically possible in the 1980s, but ultimately it turned out to be a mechanical disaster that left a lasting, albeit odd, legacy in automotive history. The V16T was powered by a unique engine configuration, two V8 engines fused together into a single 6.0L V16 engine, which was an unprecedented design choice that caused more problems than it solved. The idea behind the V16 engine was ambitious. Two 3.0L V8 engines were paired together, theoretically providing a tremendous amount of power and a unique selling point for the car. On paper, it was a technical marvel, a bold statement that set the Cizeta-Moroder V16T apart from the other supercars of its time. In reality, this engine configuration became the car's greatest flaw. While it did produce an impressive 560 horsepower, the engine was plagued with issues that rendered it unreliable and difficult to maintain. The complexity of having two V8s in a single block led to constant overheating problems. The engine's tight configuration meant that heat was trapped inside, and the cooling system was simply inadequate for the demands of a high-performance engine. This overheating issue made the engine prone to failure, damaging internal components, and causing the car to overheat during spirited driving. In addition to the overheating, the V16T's engine was a nightmare to service. The engine bay was cramped and inaccessible, which made even basic maintenance a cumbersome task. Given the complex nature of the engine and the fact that it was built using technology intended for aircraft engines, working on the V16T required specialized knowledge and tools that most mechanics simply didn't have access to. This limited the number of qualified repair shops and mechanics able to deal with the car, making ownership an expensive and time-consuming ordeal. Even finding spare parts for the car was a challenge due to its low production numbers and niche status. While the engine was one of the most unique features of the Cizeta-Moroder V16T, it wasn't the only area where the car fell short. Despite its impressive power figures, the V16T struggled to deliver consistent performance on the road. The car's handling was compromised by its rear engine layout, which put a significant amount of weight over the back axle, making the car prone to oversteer and difficult to control at higher speeds. The V16T's mechanical complexity also hindered its overall refinement. The car's performance was marred by misfiring, a common issue caused by the engine's unstable components, and its power delivery was uneven, leaving drivers frustrated with its unpredictable nature. Adding to the performance issues was the V16T's excessive weight. The combination of the two V8 engines, the heavy-duty construction, and the intricate powertrain led to a car that felt sluggish and unwieldy. The V16T's weight distribution made it hard to navigate corners and tight turns, and its overall handling characteristics left much to be desired compared to other supercars of the era, such as the Ferrari F40 and the Porsche 959. Despite its impressive specifications on paper, the Cizeta-Moroder V16T didn't provide the smooth, precision handling that enthusiasts expected from a high-end sports car. Moreover, the Cizeta-Moroder V16T was priced exorbitantly, which only added to its impracticality. The car's rarity and limited production, only a handful were ever made, gave it an exclusive appeal, but this exclusivity came at a steep price. As a result, only a small group of collectors and enthusiasts could afford to own one. However, the car's mechanical woes meant that ownership was fraught with challenges. With few mechanics able to repair it and even fewer parts available, keeping a V16T on the road was an expensive and exhausting endeavor. The combination of a high purchase price, frequent mechanical failures, and the difficulty of sourcing replacement parts meant that owning a Cizeta-Moroder V16T was an impractical choice for most. Despite its mechanical flaws and impracticalities, the Cizeta-Moroder V16T has earned its place in automotive history as one of the most unusual and ambitious supercars ever made. The car's design, its engine, and its audacity to push the boundaries of automotive engineering at the time make it a unique and fascinating piece of machinery. Though the V16T failed to live up to expectations as a performance vehicle, it remains a symbol of excess and creativity from an era when supercars were often more about showmanship than substance. In retrospect, the Cizeta-Moroder V16T is remembered not for its performance or reliability, but for its outlandish engineering and the sheer ambition behind its creation. Today it's seen as a strange, almost mythical relic of the 1980s, a car that dared to be different. The 1997 Vector M12 was supposed to be a groundbreaking supercar designed to take on the European giants such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche. Built by the American company Vector, which had lofty ambitions of creating a car that could rival the best of the best, the M12 was an attempt to deliver a true American supercar. Equipped with a 5.7L Lamborghini V12 engine, the M12 had the pedigree to make a statement. The Lamborghini V12, known for its performance in high-end supercars, promised thrilling speed and raw power. With 492 horsepower under the hood, the M12 had the makings of an impressive machine. On paper, it was a car that should have been a major contender in the world of supercars. However, the reality was far from what the M12's designers had envisioned. Despite its impressive specifications, the M12 was plagued by numerous issues that ultimately tarnished its reputation. The first and most glaring issue was performance. Although it boasted a powerful engine, the M12 simply couldn't keep up with its rivals. The Lamborghini Diablo, which was already an established icon of the supercar world, outperformed the M12 in almost every category, despite being an older model. The Vector's performance was lackluster at best, with poor acceleration and a top speed that didn't impress in comparison to its competitors. The car's handling, often cited as one of its weakest aspects, was clumsy and less refined than what would be expected from a supercar of this caliber. The M12 was slow off the line and had a heavy, unresponsive feel that made driving it less than thrilling. In addition to the performance issues, the M12's design was another factor that worked against it. While the car had a distinctive, futuristic look, it didn't possess the same level of refinement and elegance that cars from Ferrari or Lamborghini carried in spades. The styling, though aggressive, came across as an imitation rather than an original design. The toy was meant to capture the attention of the automotive world, but it did so with a sense of forced extravagance, making it feel more like an afterthought rather than a masterpiece of automotive engineering. The sharp lines and exaggerated features gave it a look that was at odds with the sleek, understated beauties of its European counterparts. The real downfall of the Vector M12, however, lay in the build quality. The car was infamous for its poor engineering, a factor that played a crucial role in its failure. Quality control was a major issue, with numerous reports of poorly assembled components, subpar materials, and frequent mechanical failures. The M12 suffered from reliability problems right out of the gate, with owners experiencing engine troubles, electrical issues, and other mechanical failures during the early stages of ownership. This made the car a nightmare to own, as maintenance and repairs were both frequent and costly. With just 14 units produced, the M12 had become a symbol of both ambition and failure in the automotive world. The high cost of ownership, combined with the constant need for repairs, left many buyers frustrated and disillusioned. Despite its flaws, the Vector M12 wasn't without its ambitions. The car was, at its core, an attempt to break into a market that was already dominated by European brands with decades of expertise and success. However, Vector's inability to properly engineer and refine the M12, coupled with the company's lack of experience in the supercar world, meant that the M12 was doomed from the start. The car's lofty price tag only exacerbated the issue, making it an unattractive option for car enthusiasts who could get much better performance and reliability for the same amount of money, if not less. Today, the Vector M12 is largely forgotten, with only a few surviving examples remaining as oddities in automotive history. It is remembered as an ambitious yet failed attempt to create an American supercar that could rival the best in the world. The M12 serves as a cautionary tale of how a combination of poor engineering, lack of refinement, and misplaced ambition can turn a promising idea into a complete failure. For car enthusiasts and collectors, the M12 remains a strange footnote in the history of supercars, a car that never lived up to its potential and ultimately faded into obscurity. Its story is a reminder that, even with the right engine and a bold vision, execution is everything in the world of high-performance automobiles.